In 1996, Tool released their second studio recording, Ænima, which has since been regarded as one of the most influential albums of all time. The album is not only a masterpiece musically, but lyrically, it has to be one of the most profound, complex, and visceral works of art I have ever had the privilege of hearing. And today we are focusing on my favorite track on the album, H. Now, Tool fans have speculated and debated about the meaning of the song since the beginning. Some think it's about addiction, others think it's about a toxic relationship, and still others, myself included, think it's more about the love for his son. And since Maynard James Keenan tends to write lyrics that could have multiple meanings, I think all of these theories could be completely valid. But I do think the song's depth lies largely in its psychological dimension, which to me seems to be focused on the struggle to break the cycle of inherited trauma. Now, it's not too often that the band will directly comment on the meaning of their songs, but during a 1996 show at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia, Maynard spoke about H and he compared it to a Warner's Brother cartoon where a guy is trying to make a decision and he's got an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. He said, the angel is trying to give him good advice while the devil is trying to get him to do what's bad for him. It's not always that simple, though. A lot of times they're not really angels or devils, but friends giving you advice, looking out for your best interest, but not really understanding what's going to be best for you. So it kind of comes down to you. You have to make the decision for yourself. The song was also discussed during a few other shows at the time, one example being in 1997 when Maynard introduced the song by again referring to the shoulder angel and devil, but also adding that it's about a hurtful yet dependent relationship. In a later interview, however, he gave us a further clue into the deeper meaning. When asked about the song on this occasion, he stated, "My son's name is Devo H. That's all I'll say." So I think that gives us some fantastic context for dissecting the song. And in this video, we're going to be looking at it mostly from a psychological and philosophical perspective. Please keep in mind, however, that this is just my own personal analysis. I am in no way attempting to speak for the band or appear to know Maynard's private thoughts or intentions, and that, of course, art is completely subjective and always open to interpretation. But I do think there are some really deep concepts presented here that are more than worthy of exploration and debate. So let's go ahead and dive into it, and you can tell me at the end if you agree with this assessment or if there's anything you'd like to add. Now, I want to begin by examining what I think are the two forces at the heart of this conflict. Maynard already clarified for us that the central struggle is not simply a battle of good versus evil, and that the angel and devil he referenced more just represented people who offer advice that they believe is in your best interest, even if they don't fully understand your situation. So to me, this shows that the conflict here isn't really moral, it's psychological. In essence, he seems to be trapped between these two powerful forces. And looking through the lyrics, there are several specific themes I think he uses to help tell this story. Number one is the snake, which is the first presence he describes in the song. I see this not really as a demon, but more of a psychological defense mechanism that's born from past trauma. Now, Maynard has spoken pretty openly about having had an extremely difficult upbringing where he experienced many traumatic familial experiences, particularly with his stepfather. And unfortunately, the insidious part of inherited trauma is that it doesn't just hurt the person who experienced it, it can also be passed down. This is usually unconscious through learned behaviors or lack of emotional tools. Since Maynard is now a father himself, I'm sure he's been forced to confront the very real fear of becoming the thing he swore he'd never be, a source of that same emotional pain for his own son. I think he's warning himself here that the emotional damage he carries could be transferred to his son if he doesn't break the cycle. He says, "The snake behind me hisses what my damage could have been." The snake seems to represent the voice of survival, essentially telling him to stay guarded and closed off and not to risk vulnerability. It's void of hate because its origin is protective, not malicious. But it seems like this protection is starting to turn more into a prison for him. He goes on to say that its venomous voice tempts me, drains me, and bleeds me, leaves me cracked and empty, drags me down like some sweet gravity. And this is exactly how old coping mechanisms work. What once kept us safe could now slowly kill us by cutting us off from real intimacy and growth. Now, against the snake stands what he refers to as the blood, which I think we can safely assume to be his son, whose middle name we already know starts with H. This relationship embodies both vulnerability and hope, and the chance to finally end the cycle of harm. He says, "My blood before me begs me, open up my heart again." So clearly, he's not describing some kind of demanding angel here. It's a fragile child asking for what he probably sees as the most terrifying thing of all: vulnerability. And the child here doesn't just want protection, he wants connection, and that would require him to dismantle all of the walls that the snake built. So I think at this point, the song is exploring the conflict he's feeling between shutting down emotionally to try to protect himself and fully opening up again to become the father he knows he needs to be, even if it's a very painful transformation. I really do think that is the core dilemma in the song. And that brings me to the next concept I see here, because this type of battle doesn't usually happen in isolation. It's usually the result of something called repetition compulsion, which is the unconscious drive to repeat harmful family patterns. So he is going against something incredibly powerful here. And we have to remember that hurt is often passed down not through hatred, but through unhealed wounds. The love is real, but so is the damage. I think we see this paradox play out in the lines, "I am too connected to you to slip away, to fade away. Days away, I still feel you, touching me, changing me, and considerately killing me." I think these might be the most profound lines in the entire song. The word killing here could be thought of as a metaphor for ego death and the painful destruction of his old self and defenses. To fully embrace being a father, he knows he has to destroy the emotionally walled off, protected version of himself. But the word considerately here is key. It implies that this painful, transformative process is happening out of love and necessity. His son isn't trying to hurt him, but he is forcing him to change, which is undeniably a painful process. But I think the turning point comes in the bridge, where he starts to surrender his self protection. He says, "Without the skin, here beneath the storm, under these tears now, the walls came down." I think we see here that his psychological dam is breaking and that his defenses are collapsing. And when he does this, his inherited pain and trauma start to lose its grip. He begins to recall all of the times that he could have cried and should have cried, and by finally allowing himself to feel, he regains his power. As he looks into his son's eyes, he faces what once terrified him. And this time, the fear gives way to something else, which seems to be acceptance of all the pain that he's experienced and will experience in the future. He's saying that he's okay with all of it because his love for his son is worth it. And this brings us back to the theme of ego death. To break cycles and grow as a person, he knows that he needs to let go of how he used to be. In myth, the snake embodies death and rebirth, and in Jungian psychology, it's the shadow, not to be annihilated, but to be integrated. By drowning the snake, he's not destroying his past, but he is taking away its power to define his future and his relationship with his son. Now, I am always blown away by Maynard's lyrics, but there is something so personal and so vulnerable about the song that has always stuck with me. It is like a masterpiece in psychological storytelling, and I think it says a lot that so many people have not only been able to identify with the song, but also see further layers that apply to their own lives, which I really think is the entire point of art in the first place. So those are my thoughts on this brilliant song, but I would love to hear yours, so please leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the analysis, and I will see you in the next one.